I can swear there ain't no heaven, but I...
Hello, and welcome to Lake County Sports Scoop. I'm your host, Carson Beck, and you're listening to 98.3 WRLR, the voice of Lake County. Today is Monday, November 25th, and this is our third show on our new time slot on Mondays at 4. Today kicks off an exciting week of high school sports as basketball season is underway as it starts tonight. And don't worry, folks, for all of those tuning in to 98.3 WRLR for this weekend's state championship in the 8A IHSA class championship. As we got two undefeated teams clashing at it as the Lincoln Way East Griffins take on your Warren Blue Devils, who are also undefeated from the North Suburban Conference. Unfortunately, this is the first show in over a month that we will not be joined by Carmel Corsairs varsity assistant basketball coach Fidel Garcia, as he and Coach Ryan, who joined us a couple weeks ago, and the rest of the Carmel Corsairs boys basketball team are having their first official varsity basketball game as they take on Schurz High School, as they will be in Grant taking on the Schurz High School basketball program to start off their season in the Thanksgiving tournament. For those who want to catch that game in person, you can head over to Fox Lake, where they'll be starting off around 5 o'clock as they start off their season. Today on the Lake County Sports Scoop, we'll preview the upcoming basketball season, which I mentioned starts today. And of course, we can't overlook the biggest matchup of the week going on in football. However, as we have only one Lake County team still remaining in the IHSA playoffs, as the 4-seed Warren Blue Devils take on the Lincoln Way East Griffins from the Southwest Suburban Conference as they compete for a state championship. And for those wondering, Lincoln Way East is no stranger for the state crown, as they won the state championship in 2017. Warren is making its farthest that they've ever made it in the playoffs, as prior to this year, the farthest they've gone was the quarterfinals, but they got past Brother Rice last weekend in the semifinals to advance to the state championship in DeKalb, home of the Northern Illinois Huskies, where they hope to grasp their first ever IHSA football championship. For those not attending the game and those who are in need of a pregame show, you can listen to the pregame show right here on 98.3 WRLR, as Rusty Silber and Don Johnson will be live from DeKalb giving you all the information that you need on the game, and we'll be calling the game play by play. Going into this weekend's IHSA semifinals, we had two Lake County teams still competing in the playoffs. The other team I'm referring to is the Deerfield Warriors from the Central Suburban League. Unfortunately for Deerfield, they were the 2-seed in the 6A IHSA bracket, as they lost to 1-seed Prairie Ridge in dominant fashion by Prairie Ridge, as they won 49-16. Deerfield finishes their 2019 season with a record of 10-3. Let's preview this weekend's IHSA State Championship, and then we'll get the man calling the game on the line, Rusty Silber, to weigh in on what should be an exciting 8A IHSA Championship. Lincoln Way East is coming off a win versus Marist. Warren is coming off a win versus Brother Rice. Last week for Warren, it was a slow start as it was a tied game at 0 in the middle of the second quarter. The game in total had 14 total punts from both teams, giving the special teams a little love. However, the storyline of the season for the Blue Devils has been indeed their defense, as their defense altogether had 5 sacks against Brother Rice. The Warren defense wore down Brother Rice's offense, which gave the ball more to Warren's offense, which allowed them to open up their playbook and use their weapons. Christian Phillips has been a key speedy weapon for Warren, as he found the end zone last weekend versus Brother Rice. He was the player of the game in last week's semifinals. Derek McLaughlin, the running back, also helped open the offense, as well as open up the offense on the scoreboard. Iowa State commit Willis Singleton on the other side of the ball, and his partner in crime, Juan De La Cruz, helped slow down and eventually shut out the Brother Rice Crusaders. This is Warren's 6th, that's right, number 6 shutout of the season. The defense will need to show up against a high-powered Lincoln Way offense team, as both teams mirror each other in style of play. After all, however, the old saying, defense wins championships, will definitely be key in who decides who should and what should be a very close game. Lincoln Way East went on cruise control against a very solid Marist team, winning 24-7. This Marist team they beat was beat Lake Zurich earlier in this year, one of Warren's rivals who competed with them for the conference crown. Lincoln Way East is no stranger to playoff opponents, as they beat a few in the regular season, as well as beating some powerhouse juggernauts in the bottom half of the side of their bracket, like Plainfield South, Notre Dame, Homewood Flossmoor, and of course, Marist. Going back to Lincoln Way East's offense, in the playoffs alone, Lincoln Way East has outscored their opponents 113-27. Warren has been outstanding in as they have been outscoring teams in the playoffs alone 126-19. In the end, it's going to come down to which defense can keep the opposing offense from producing any momentum, as we know how dominant Warren has been defensively with 6 shutouts, and this has been the farthest Warren has gone in school history. I will say it right here, right now, because Coach Garcia is not in studio. I will make my prediction, and after seeing how Warren played against Brother Rice last week, I will say that the Blue Devils will beat the Griffins in a close one, and they will hoist up their first ever state championship. Before we talk to Rusty, let's get a quick snippet of his interview with Coach McNulty, the victorious Warren head coach, after his semifinal victory, as he prepares for the state championship against Lincoln Way East. This should be an exciting matchup, and let's hear what Rusty has to say from his interview. Let's see if it wants to load here. There we go.
Great game plan. What went into this game?
Well, we knew they were going to be tough, and they're going to be tough on defense. They got some good young players, so we knew we were going to have to keep working them and just kind of try to outlast them, and that's what we did.
You know, that first half, they kind of bent your defense a little bit. They got down in your area, but there's no give. There's no take to take away from you there on defense, was there?
No, those kids got a lot of pride. They play hard, and they know what they're doing, and they don't really flinch when they get down there.
What about getting a touchdown before halftime? How important was that one?
Oh, it's huge. We didn't think we played really well in the first half, and then to come out and just still be up 7-0 was outstanding, so we're pretty happy about it.
What can you say about Christian Phillips? I mean, he doesn't go down easy, does he?
No, he is extremely dynamic. we told him he had to have a big game this week, and that's exactly what he did.
28-0 over Brother Rice. Did you have ever thought in your mind that you'd be able to put 4 touchdowns on a team like that?
Well, these kids, nothing really surprises me. You know what I mean? They just keep playing hard. We got a defensive touchdown, which was huge, and, we felt like we could run them laterally a little bit, and that's what we did.
Now, I know they beat you last year. Was there a little revenge in this game?
Nah, we didn't talk about that. I mean, we knew what was at stake, and if we would have focused on revenge, that would have taken us off where real focus was, and that was just to win the football game.
I know there's focus for a state championship coming against Lincoln Way East.
Yep.
I know the excitement of getting there is one thing, but playing the game is another. So what goes on in your mind for next week?
Well, they're very similar to us. They got a really stout defense, fast on offense, got some really dynamic players. So we're just going to enjoy this tonight and then look at the film and see how we go.
All right, congratulations, Coach.
Thank you, sir.
Now that we heard Rusty Silber's interview, let's get Rusty live on the phone and see what he has to say about this weekend's matchup that he'll be calling right here on 98.3 WRLR. Hey, Rusty, welcome to Lake County Sports Scoop on 98.3 WRLR. I know you're not a stranger to the show, but I just want to get your expertise knowing that you'll be down in DeKalb calling what should be a thriller between two powerhouse teams going at it in Lincoln Way East versus Warren. What pops out to you in this matchup?
Well, first off, I got to say NIU.
That's right. You said it during the broadcast. I loved it.
Yeah, I know a lot of fans are excited, especially around Gurney and a lot of fans around Lake County that have gone on the back of Warren here to see a Lake County team be a representative in the Class 8A game. It's going to be good, and you got to say hats off to everybody, Brian McNulty, the rest of the coaching staff, all the players that have put forth the effort ever since the days from way back in the summertime, going through the schedule this year, dealing with the weather, the cold, the snow, and everything to make their way to basically the game that they've been looking for all year long, and that's the state championship game in Class 8A.
You know, Rusty, when I look at the both of these teams' resumes, something really pops out to me. Warren has been 9 playoff teams. Lincoln Way East has been 7 playoff teams. We all notice narrative going to this story is Warren defense, as they've only given up 40 points all year. But when I look at Lincoln Way East's scores, you want to know how they've outscored their opponents this year, 422 to only 87. How do you think these two teams match up in terms of Lincoln Way East's high-powered offense versus the Warren defense that has 6 shutouts on the season?
Well, one thing to look at about Warren here, and you just can't take this season into account, Carson. You got to look back at what they did last year, too. They had 5 shutouts last year. They were dominant. You had a number of players that came back this year, and they were on a mission. They got beat by Brother Rice last year in the quarterfinals, 20-0. Now, everybody knows when you get beat in a game and you're shut out, that's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth. That's going to leave your stomach jumping around. You're going to have this bad feeling and say, hey, you know something? We didn't get the job done. And there were a number of players from Warren that had a feeling, hey, we want to come back out, have another season like last year, which they did, and then go throughout this entire year, including getting past Brother Rice. And that was the important thing. And they got by Brother Rice, and boy, did they ever get by them, beating them Saturday by a score of 28-0, which is impressive in itself, beating a Catholic League team like that. I mean, that was phenomenal for what the defense did out there. And these guys have played beyond their expectations to get to this championship game. Now, Lincoln Way East, let's talk about this team because they've got a lot of experience. You've got a program that has really come to life over the last few years. It's always been a decent school in 8A, but they've gotten to be a bigger program. A few years ago when Lincoln Way North closed its doors, they picked up a lot of players and enhanced the Lincoln Way East program. They won the state 2 years ago. Last year, looked like it was their best team in their school history, like they're going to win it, and Loyola Academy knocked them off. They beat them and basically knocked them right off the ledge of any chance to go to that state championship game. So for them to get to the state championship game, they feel like, hey, we've come a long way, just like Warren with the type of season that they had to get there. So they're on a mission just like Warren is, and you got two juggernauts ready to go against each other. And it's going to be a battle. There's no doubt about that. I mean, yeah, sure, they got all these gaudy numbers, but one thing I believe in state championship football, in my belief, this goes back to 2007 when I saw Lake Zurich play Warrenville South in Class 7A. And everyone said, hey, Lake Zurich has no chance in this game. But their defense bent a little bit. It didn't break. And they beat Warrenville South 7-3. You don't have to win a game by 30 points. You could still win a game by a few points and be considered a state champion. And Warren could do that this weekend, as long as they keep Lincoln Way East away from scoring touchdowns. And they've done that to every team they've played this year. So that's the impressive thing. Their defense steps up to the challenge, which will be on a big stage. That's another thing that comes to my mind. At Northern Illinois University, this is the biggest game of their lives, a lot of these players. They've got the opportunity to play on a college campus, college football field, which, by the way, college football field and the high school field, it's basically the same, maybe a little wider, maybe a little big. Then, handling with the seating and everything being about 20,000 people, you can really fit in there. But it's still a big stage. And for high school kids, they got to be able to say, hey, it's just like playing a normal football game. Just get out there and let's play football. And that's got to be on the minds of Warren Blue Devils if they have a good shot against Lincoln Way East.
You know, Rusty, I listened to your interview with Coach McNulty, and you asked if the Brother Rice game was a revenge game, but he said no, that would only take away from the focus. But personally, for me, I felt going to this season, Warren, even though they had 2 losses, they had some unfinished business. They lost to Barrington last year and Brother Rice last year, and they beat both of those teams this year, and they took care of business in conference. They took care of business in playoffs. In the end, knowing that this is a very special and historic season, I got to ask you, because you'll be at the game, do you think that the Warren defense will be able to hold up and against a high-powered Lincoln Way East offense and eventually win the game and have the Blue Devils hoist up their first ever state championship trophy in football this coming Saturday?
Well, my hope is saying yes, and believe me, with the heart that's in Lake County and everyone else, we want to see a state championship. It's been a few years to see one. I think Stevenson might have been our last one in football.
Correct.
Going back a few years. But we've seen Lake Zurich get there, and this is Warren's chance to do it. You know, we've had some other teams in Lake County that have had championships going back in the 2000s, being Libertyville and Carmel, Lake Zurich, and here's a chance with Warren. They do have a shot in this. I mean, I'll say this. Lincoln Way East will be their toughest foe this season. And I know my comrade that calls the games with me, Don Johnson, has made a mention to me already after the game. We were talking about it, and he's seen Lincoln Way East. They've got similar pieces to what Warren has. You know, they kind of mirror each other. So this will be a game to test each other's ability on the field. Similar to like Brother Rice, you know, you got to be able to withstand what they're going to do offensively. And Lincoln Way East has got to do the same thing on their defense, withstand what they can do offensively. Right now, Warren's defense, really all season long, has been a real tough defense. I mean, it's been spectacular, stellar, outstanding, depending on how you want to say it. They just haven't been able to give up much. I mean, Brother Rice, you got an all-state running back, 2,000-plus yards, and he got a couple of runs at 20 and 30 yards, but did nothing the rest of the day. They adjust well. These defensive players, you know, De La Cruz, Melicon, there's a bunch of other names you can put on the defensive line. The entire defensive line, you know, the linebackers, they support each other so well. And it's something I kind of think maybe that this defense could almost be better than the Bears' defense on the Bears. I don't know.
Oh, geez.
But they play so good right now, and they've got so much confidence, so much ability that you would think, right now, hey, give them the trophy, but you still got to play a game. You still got to get out there on Northern Illinois field and play this game on Saturday night. And as much as I can say it can happen, they still got to play a complete 48-minute game of football to get this to happen. And it's still still a ways away. It's only Monday here. They got to go through a week of practice. And Brian McNulty, he's done a great job with this group. And I know these boys are sitting here with the mindset, hey, we can do this. But you still got to play against another team that had a great season too. And only one team's going to win. That's the toughest part about this whole thing.
And you were right. Warren can definitely adjust. I remember listening to the game on WRLR. It was tied at 0 in the second quarter, but then the Warren offense just opened up the playbook, and from there on, it was just all Blue Devils. But Rusty, before I let you go, I mentioned at the top of the hour it's basketball season starting tonight. Do you want to give the listeners a little heads up on where you'll be at tonight?
No, I don't want to do that because then they'll find me. No, just kidding. But, there's a lot of basketball starting tonight with the Thanksgiving tournaments. Some people call them the turkey tournaments. It is the start of the season, and there's a lot of teams playing in a lot of different places. Go out and catch one of your teams. Give them some support out there. The hardest part about this thing is, and I know you're excited about it, Carson, like, hey, yeah, basketball's starting, great. But the thing is, this is only day one. There's a long time between games right around Thanksgiving to when you get through the conference slate, you go through the, the holiday tournaments, and you go through Martin Luther King tournaments, and then you get towards February and March when you start looking at the playoffs. So it's a long, long season ahead. But a lot of people, I know they enjoy when, football ends and you get into basketball. It's going to be an interesting season, especially for Lake County teams. I think we have a pretty good, thorough amount of basketball teams. Stevenson, who went the distance last year from Lake County, reached the super sectional. They took on Evanston, and they were so close in that super sectional for a trip to Spade. They're going to be back. They have 4/5 of their starting lineup back. They only lost Chang as one of their I think shooting guards that were missing because he graduated. They got everybody back there. You got an awfully good Mundelein team, it looks like, with Enright, who's going off to Drake, and Bouvet, who's going to be back. I mean, they're juniors only. But they're on the young side, but I expect them to be talented. Then you got Zion Benton with Aguilar, very loaded type Zion Benton team. And they can be a one to watch out for. And, we'll see how they can do in that very tough North Suburban Conference. And then you got teams like Deerfield from last year. That's going to be pretty good. And Carmel. I mean, Carmel's going to be good, too, with, Kalani Wilson. You got a lot of good, talented teams. I haven't even mentioned half of them. More. I mean, it's going to be good basketball this year. I know you're getting excited about it, Carson. It's going to be good because we're going to enjoy, seeing good basketball, not only on the boys' side, but for the girls' side, too.
I'm only excited because I really see that majority of these teams, there's not too much of a gap. So I honestly feel like, for the most part, most of the teams can definitely have a shot at winning their conference and maybe having a special season. But, Rusty, as always, we appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule and enjoy a thriller this weekend.
Yeah, enjoy the thriller, and all those people enjoy the rebroadcast.
Indeed.
It comes up after your show because we're going to play it again for all those people that want to relive what happened on Saturday afternoon with Don Johnson, Norm, Marion, and myself, and Warren's unbelievable victory over Brother Rice.
It was just a mind-blowing game, especially that fumble return for a touchdown. But, Rusty, I wish you the best of luck this weekend and enjoy some basketball tonight. I'll catch you later.
All right. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the rest of your show, Carson.
Thanks, Rusty. That was Rusty Silver, on the phone. He'll be calling this weekend's game. But let's head to break, and we'll preview some high school basketball as it starts tonight. And we will get a calling guest and I'll give you a sneak peek. And he was one of the members of one of the teams that have high expectations going into the season, and he'll weigh in on what should be an exciting boys basketball season. You've been listening to Lake County Sports Scoop on 98.3 WRLR, the voice of Lake County.
You're listening to 98.3 FM, WRLR LP, Round Lake, Illinois.
Cornicchione's New York-style pizzeria in Antioch at Routes 83 and 173 is another proud sponsor of WRLR Sports. Cornicchione's pizza dough is made from scratch using a family recipe that originated in Brooklyn, New York. Their dough is proofed at least 24 hours. Cornicchione's menu includes pizzas, calzones, pasta, much more. They have dine-in, carry-out, and delivery. Their number is 224-308-1499.
Parents, did you know that high school dropouts make 42% less than graduates? Someone will have to make up that difference, and chances are that will be you. That means paying 42% of their groceries.
Ooh, more candy.
42% of their dentist bills.
No more candy.
Even 42% of their therapy sessions.
It's all my dad's fault.
Save your money. Encourage your kids to stay in school. For help and advice, call 877-FORAKID. A message from the U.S. Army and the Ad Council.
I like doo-wop music. My friends like doo-wop music. But all that counts is you like doo-wop music. I know you do. Admit it, you really do. Mark Shanahan likes doo-wop too. He's got a doo-wopper of a music library and lots of doo-wop energy. He wants to share his doo-wop music with you. So set your fingers snapping and tune that dial to Mark's doo-wop hour every Monday afternoon at 2, right here on 98.3 FM and WRLR and WRLR.FM online. Doo-wop.
Hi, I'm Frank Tarzeski, inviting you to listen to Music Matters every Friday from 1 to 4 p.m. right here on WRLR 98.3 on your FM dial. I play polkas, I play country, I play crazy songs, I play requests and jazz. That's Music Matters 1 to 4 p.m. right here on WRLR 98.3.
WRLR 98.3 FM.
And welcome back to Lake County Sports Scoop on 98.3 WRLR, the voice of Lake County. As the top of the hour, we had Rusty Silver on call, giving his preview on this weekend's 8A IHSA Championship live from DeKalb at Husky Stadium as the Lincoln Way East Griffins take on the Warren Blue Devils of the North Suburban Conference. Both teams are undefeated, but as we both mentioned, it's basketball season. And let's dive in to some previews on each Lake County team. The first team we'll look at is the Stevenson Patriots, coming off an impressive 27-6 season, 12-2 in conference, where they were in the 4A IHSA playoff bracket, won the Lake Forest Regional, won the Waukegan Sectional, but lost to Evanston in the Super Sectional at the Sears Center in Hoffman Estates. Stevenson is coached by Pat Ambrose, entering his 22nd season as head coach. Stevenson won a state championship under Coach Ambrose back in 2014-2015 when they became the first high school in Illinois history to win a state championship in both boys basketball and football in the same academic school year. The only key player that Stevenson lost from last year was point guard Luke Chiang. Stevenson, however, returns sharpshooter senior guard Matthew Ambrose, son of the head coach, Coach Ambrose, senior forward R.J. Holmes, and senior forward Matt Kaznanikov. Stevenson will bring in some newcomers of the new team, as well as including junior forward Jacob Morris and junior guard Adam West. And junior guard Andrew Chiang, related to former Patriot Luke Chiang. Stevenson will try distinguishing itself from the rest of the pack in the North Suburban Conference, where there was a five-way tie for third after the Patriots and Waukegan, as Waukegan and Stevenson shared the North Suburban Crown. Let's dive into a team that will try hanging around with Stevenson for that conference championship. The next team we'll look at is the Mundelein Mustangs. Mundelein is playing against Collins today at Mundelein, the Mundelein Thanksgiving tournament at 7, a team that they beat handily last season at the Collinsville Christmas tournament last year. Mundelein is coming off an impressive 20-12 season last season. That was their first 20-win season since 2011-2012. Mundelein is coached by Matt Badgley, who is entering his third season at the helm of being the coach for the Mustangs. We had Coach Badgley on a couple weeks ago. Although Badgley's record in his 2 years at Mundelein are 34-29, Mundelein has high expectations going to this basketball season, making the sky the limit. Mundelein is on a revenge tour, believe it or not, as they release T-shirts saying Mundelein versus everyone that they'll be handing out at today's season opener. Ever since Coach Badgley has taken over as Mundelein head coach, they have improved not only their win total, but their talent. Mundelein is looking to compete with the Patriots for the North Suburban Crown, something that they have not won since 1993-1994. You got to remember this basketball program in Mundelein, before Coach Badgley's first season, they didn't win a conference game in 4 years, and their combined record in those 4 years were 11 wins and 106 losses. Mundelein is looking to win a regional title, something that they have not done since Dick Kennard was head coach back in 2012-2013. After falling to Deerfield last season in the regional championship at Wheeling, Mundelein returns lights-out shooter junior guard Connor Enright and the big man, his partner in crime, junior center Scotty Ebube, as Enright committed to Drake University earlier this year for basketball. Both Enright and Ebube have started for Coach Badgley since his first season, when they were both freshmen at the time. Mundelein is losing key players like forward Andrew Gonzalez, guard Sam Eddy, and forward Nolan Thier, but Mundelein has reloaded its weapons with newcomers this year. Some of the newbies for the Mustangs this year are Stevenson transfer junior guard Trey Baker, junior guard Chris Rooney, and freshman forward Chris Martin. Mundelein was a part of the 5 teams involved in the 5-way tied for third, but due to head-to-head tiebreakers, including sweeping Libertyville, their rivals, and Lake Forest, Mundelein got the upper hand, finishing at third in conference. Now, as I mentioned before the break, we are going to get a calling guest, a former Mundelein basketball alum in Ronnie Ryba. He also was a part of legendary coach Todd Parola's baseball team as during his time at Mundelein. Let's see if we can get Ronnie on the show. Hey, Ronnie, how are we doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Welcome to Lake County Sports Scoop on 98.3 WRLR, the voice of Lake County. And for those tuning in, our listeners, Ronnie Ryba is a two-sport varsity athlete during his time at Mundelein, as he was a baseball player under legendary coach Todd Parola, as well as he played a season under Coach Knigge for the basketball program, and he was a manager under Coach Badgley's first season. So, Ronnie, I just want your perspective. I know you played basketball at Mundelein, but I also want your take on what type of juice and energy Coach Badgley has brought into this Mustangs program ever since you and I were both seniors back in 2018.
Yeah, so from the transition of my junior year to senior year, from Coach Knigge to now it being Coach Badgley, like right off the bat, I could tell that the energy that Coach Badgley had was pretty much just unmatched, and he just had a big passion for the game and wanting to make the program overall just a lot better because in the 4 seasons that we did have Coach Carnegie, we went 11 and 106. So really not the way that we wanted to be, but Badgley coming in and just having all that fire and that enthusiasm to want to get us to be better, it really ended up like last year they finished with 20 wins, which is a huge turnaround from what it really was in years past, which was just fantastic.
Ronnie, I know you and I both saw Scotty Abube and Connor Enright when they were just a little freshmen, but Enright just committed to Drake University for basketball, and I just want your take on maybe how you've observed both those players improving since their freshman season and how they can maybe help elevate Mundelein for competing for a conference championship and possibly more.
Yeah, I've seen Connor Enright play since he was a little kid because I am good friends with his older brother, Kyle. So even from like a young age and even as a freshman, I knew that he was just going to be a special player, a really talented player, just a lot of natural athleticism. And just when I found out that he committed to Drake, I wasn't surprised that he was going D1. And I expect the same thing to happen with Abube. Just a huge, big body, 6'8" center. Averaged a double-double last year, and I see just for both of them this year even being a step even higher. And I wouldn't be surprised if the team, just in general, with the depth that they have now, bringing in some of the other juniors that are very talented as well, easily winning a regional, another 20-win season. They're going to have some good competition with Stevenson, and I'm just excited for the season to start for them.
And Ronnie, you mentioned that you're friends with Connor Enright's brother Kyle, but man, it's just so tremendous to see how Connor has elevated his game past Kyle, who was a 3-year varsity player, and also Scotty Abube, that his brother Chino played at Mundelein back under Coach Kennard. So it's really mind-blowing to see those players just grow and elevate as players. But before I let you go, I just want your take on what do you expect and what do you think's the limit for this Mundelein team that's going into the season ranked in the top 25 in the Chicagoland area?
Yeah, I think for them, they're going to just create their own path and just the talent that they have. I could see them winning a regional and really fighting for a sectional. It just depends if all the pieces in the puzzle just fit together and if the season flows really well. I think the sky's really the limit for them. And even as pretty much their whole team's a lot of juniors, even looking on to next year, like they really just have so much potential and so much talent. I could really see them going far in March.
Ronnie, I'm not sure if you talked to any media before, but you sound like a natural today right here on The Voice of Lake County. Ronnie, we appreciate you taking some busy time. I know you're crossing the Indiana-Illinois border right now, trying to make it back home to Mundelein, but we hope to see you at the Corral back at Mundelein for one of these Thanksgiving tournament games. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule, big man.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
All right, Ronnie, you have a good one.
You as well.
For those just tuning in to 98.3 WRLR, that was former basketball player Ronnie Ryba, who was a manager and player in the basketball program, as well as a baseball player for a very good baseball team in the Mustangs. But let's transition over to their rivals, the Libertyville Wildcats. Libertyville will take on Prospect at St. Viator High School. For the Libertyville Wildcats, they are facing some uncharted territory, looking for a bounce-back season after having a 14-15, 6-8 in conference play season last year. For once, Libertyville will go from being the hunted to the hunter as the Wildcats team looks to have a say in who wins the North Suburban Conference. Libertyville is coached by third-year head coach Brian Zurkowski. On his first season, he was led by current Rice basketball player Drew Peterson. Last season was the first time in a while that they weren't led by Peterson, and this led to some of the players finding their roles as a team while competing in the North Suburban last season. Libertyville lost to Hersey in the 4A IHSA semifinals to close their 2018 campaign. Last year was the first time since 2016-2017 that the Wildcats had a losing record. The last time before that was 2012-2013. Libertyville lost some key players last season, including guard Josh Steinhaus and forward Travis Clark. However, the Wildcats are still optimistic as they return some athletic players, including senior guard Jackson Watson, forward Will Moore, who we brought on the show a couple weeks ago, and junior guard Blake Ellingson, who is the quarterback for the Wildcats after suffering a devastating injury during the football season last year. Don't overlook this Libertyville Wildcat team, as they are one of the 5 teams tied for third in the North Suburban last year. The next team we'll look at in the North Suburban Conference as we preview our upcoming basketball season is the Lake Forest Scouts. Lake Forest tips off its season against Mather from the Chicago Public League. Lake Forest is coached by Phil Escala. Lake Forest is looking for a bounce-back season of their own as they won 11-17 last season, as they were one of the 5 teams tied for third in conference last year. This last year was first time since 2005-2006 that Lake Forest did not win a regional or have a winning record. Lake Forest lost in the regional quarterfinals to Highland Park. Do not overlook this Scouts team as they look to come back this season and possibly play spoiler in the North Suburban, pulling out some unexpected upsets to keep their heads afloat in the conference race. This is a Lake Forest team that you must take seriously game by game, or else they'll make you pay. The next team we'll look at in the North Suburban Conference is Zion Benton. The ZBs tipped their season off against Glenbrook South at Buffalo Grove High School. Zion is coached by Bob Worthington, a coach who doesn't let the ZBs go down in any game without a fight or playing physical. Zion is coming off a 13-15 campaign where they were also one of the teams a part of the 5-way tied for third in conference last season. Zion lost in the regional quarterfinals to Wheeling last year at Wheeling. Zion returns a lot of key players from last season. Look out for the ZBs as they are talented and they are also quick, physical, and should not be taken lightly despite the record last season as they look to play spoiler in the North Suburban. The next team we'll look at in the North Suburban Conference is the Waukegan Bulldogs. Waukegan is taking on Leo High School at Quincy High School. Waukegan is coached by head coach Ron Ashlaw. Waukegan is coming off an impressive 27-6 campaign, 12-2 in conference as they shared the conference title with Stevenson last year. Waukegan lost to Stevenson in the sectional finals last season. For Waukegan, this year is a big test for them as they look to continue their highly competitiveness in the North Suburban despite losing a lot of talent from the past 2 seasons. When you think of Waukegan High School, you think of boys soccer and boys basketball as their basketball program is filled with rich history and some special seasons for the Bulldogs. Coach Ashaw coached this Bulldogs program twice. His first time coaching Waukegan, he coached the Bulldogs from 2007 through 2012. He took only a 2-year break before returning to Waukegan. During Coach Ashaw's first go-around as Waukegan head coach, he took the Bulldogs downstate in back-to-back years in 2008, 2009, and then 2009, 2010 when they were still in the Central Suburban League. This should be a real test for the Bulldogs program, who has high expectations from a season ago, despite losing a lot of talent while trying to find some key players during their summer league action. This is only... Ronnie wants to weigh in. 1 second. What's up, Ronnie?
It's up to you.
Oh, maybe caught on accident. But the last time Waukegan didn't win a double-digit amount of games was back in 2014-2015 when Ashaw was not head coach. This is the 4th year of the Bulldogs being in the North Suburban. The next team we'll look at is the Warren Blue Devils. Warren will take on another competitive Lake County team in Deerfield at the Mundelein Thanksgiving Tournament. Warren is coached by 5th-year head coach John Jasnock. Warren is coming off a 16-16 season, 6-8 in North Suburban, where they were another one of the 5 teams tied for a third season. 5 teams tied for third a season ago. Warren is known for its competitive spirit and style of play, where they just as well can make a statement in conference games. Warren is coming off a season where they lost in the 4A IHSA Regional Championship versus the Waukegan Bulldogs. While this season you might associate Warren with its football team and its physical defense, who is playing in the state championship this weekend with its physical defense, I associate their very aggressive style of play overall in basketball. Speaking of football, in fact, one of their key returning players is a football player for the Blue Devils, senior guard Juan De La Cruz, who plays defensive back in football. Another key returning player who doesn't play football but plays a key role for Warren is senior guard Jordan Johnson. Look out for Warren's basketball team because they aren't looking to fit anyone's preconceived narratives about this team as they look to be in the mix for one of the teams on the top portion of the conference standings. If you're just tuning in to 98.3 WRLR, we are giving a preview on the Lake County teams as they start their basketball season in the boys' side today. The last team we'll look at in the North Suburban Conference is the Lake Zurich Bears. Lake Zurich will take on the Lakes Eagles, another Lake County team, at Richmond Burton. Lake Zurich is coming off a 7-24 season, only 2-12 in North Suburban. The Bears are coached by second-year head coach Terry Coughlin. Lake Zurich lost to Palatine in the 4A IHSA regional quarterfinals to Palatine. Although Lake Zurich finished in conference last place in conference last season, Lake Zurich is far from the conference doormat. This Lake Zurich team made sure to stay competitive in most of their games last year. And Lake Zurich team needs to learn how to close out games into victories. If they do that, Lake Zurich can get its program back on track to the program they once were only 2 seasons ago when they made it to the super sectional game. Lake Zurich had a signature win versus Mundelein last year to help boost its confidence going into the season. Let's transition over from the North Suburban Conference to the Northern Lake County Conference. The defending champions of the Northern Lake County Conference are the Grant Bulldogs. Grant will host North Lawndale at the Grant Thanksgiving Tournament. The Bulldogs are coached by Wayne Bosworth, who is entering his 12th season at Grant. The Bulldogs went 19-13 last season and went 11-3 in conference play. Grant lost to Deerfield in the 4A IHSA semifinals last season. Grant has a big target on its back, being the defending conference champions. Grant returns a key player from last season, guard Mikhail Ashley. Although Grant lost a lot of talent from last season, they have a lot of newcomers, including sophomore forward Randall Holm and junior guard Jalen Rios. While Grant adjusting to a lot of new faces this year might start out as a learning curve, expect the Bulldogs team to go down swinging near the end of the season as they look to build on its reputation from last year. Let's talk about the Carmel Corsairs in the East Suburban Catholic Conference as Fidel Garcia, my co-host, is getting ready for his first game as they take on Schurz from the Chicago Public League at the Grant Thanksgiving Tournament. Carmel is coached by Zach Ryan, entering his 5th season as head coach. I just want to mention a lot of these notes were a team effort between Coach Garcia and I, so I need to give him credit where credit is due. Carmel is another team coming into the season with a target on their back. Carmel is coming off a 22-12 season, 6-3 in conference play. And Carmel lost to DePaul Prep in the sectional semifinals last season. Carmel is coming off back-to-back seasons in which they won a regional championship. Carmel is up for the challenge as they return key players from last season, including junior guard Kamari, or as they call him, Kemo Wilson, sophomore guard Bryce Moore, who we had on the show a couple weeks ago, and junior guard who also plays football at Carmel, running back and guard Sion Usma Harper. While Carmel has high expectations for itself, settling for another regional championship isn't quite enough for this Corsairs basketball team. As they look to make history winning a sectional, Carmel will be up for a challenge getting everyone's best swing at the Corsairs. The key question for Carmel will be, are Wilson and Moore ready to carry the load after losing 4-year starter Johnny Roser to Loras College, where he plays basketball? The next team we'll look at is back in the Northern Lake County Conference in the Grays Lake North Knights. Grays Lake North will take on Faux Wakanda at Johnsburg High School. The Knights are coming off a 17-13 campaign from last season. They were part of a 3-way tie for second in conference last year. The Knights returned senior guard Ryan Connolly and senior guard Jamone Thomas. The Knights also have a newcomer who's a freshman, and he'll help lead the Grays Lake North squad in Dominic Jankowski. With the Bulldogs and Grant losing a lot of talent from last season, the Knights will look to be the favorites along with their rivals Grays Lake Central for the conference crown. The Knights will have high expectations, looking to get over the hump and possibly win a regional and make a run in the postseason. The next team we'll look at in conference is the Grays Lake Central Rams. Grays Lake Central will take on Uplift at Buffalo Grove High School. Grays Lake Central is coached by first-year head coach Brian Centella. The Rams are coming off a 16-14 campaign, as they were also a part of the 3-way tie for second. Grays Lake Central lost to St. Patrick in the 3A regional championship. Centella is no stranger to the Grays Lake Central program, as he is a Grays Lake Hall of Famer and alum. Centella looks to build off its successful season from last season, returning a good amount of their team from last season, including senior forward Daniel Rogers and senior guard Griffin O'Gordon. The Rams look to be in the mix for the conference crown this season despite their new head coach. The next team we'll look at in the Northern Lake County Conference is the Wakanda Bulldogs. Wakanda will take on conference rival Grays Lake North at Johnsburg High School today. The Bulldogs are coached by Scott Lutschweiger, entering his 11th season as head coach. Wakanda went 15-15 last year and also 7-7 in conference play. Wakanda is looking to seek revenge on the Knights after falling to them in the 4A quarterfinals. Wakanda looks to return a lot of good amount of players from last season, including senior guard Donovan Carter and senior forward Jake Shanholzer. Wakanda also has a lot of youth playing varsity that they look to build upon in upcoming seasons, including sophomore forward Garrison Carter. While Wakanda finished 5th in conference last season, expect some improvement as the season goes on from Wakanda and possibly pull off a few upsets here and there. This team is by definition a spoiler for conference. The next team we'll look at in the Northern Lake County Conference is the North Chicago Warhawks, as they take on MacArthur from Florida at Auburn High School in Rockford. North Chicago is coached by Gerald King, also nicknamed The King. With North Chicago's speed and talent, the Warhawks could very well be the king of the Northern Lake County Conference. This year is a wide-open year with some teams losing a lot of players from last year. Some of the more experienced teams have new coaches, and North Chicago doesn't have either of those problems. North Chicago finished last season at 12-19 in the 3-way tie for second place in conference last year, so definitely don't take the Warhawks for granted, because on any given night, they will make you pay. The next team we'll look at in the Northern Lake County Conference is the Antioch Seacoits. Antioch will start its season tonight against Woodstock. Antioch is coached by first-year head coach Tim Bowen. Antioch won 13-14 last season, 5-9 in conference play, and lost in the 3A regional semifinals to Ridgewood at Ridgewood. Although Antioch lost a lot of key players from last season, the Seacoits look to bounce back in conference under a new head coach. This team plays physical and should not be taken lightly despite their losing record last season and their new coach. Bowen is no stranger to the Lake County area as he coached in Grays Lake and at Carmel Catholic. Antioch returns forward Gavin Eldridge. The Seacoits also welcome intriguing newcomer to help assist Antioch to rebuilding its program back to competitiveness as they bring along A.J. Kutcher. The next team we'll look at is Round Lake as they tip off their season at Woodstock North, taking on the Streaks of Woodstock North. Round Lake is coached by second-year head coach Jay Iden. Round Lake lost in the 4A playing game versus Buffalo Grove. They went 9-23 last year, but despite losing 20-plus games last year and going winless in conference, there's still excitement in the Round Lake program. In the second year of the Iden era, Round Lake returns a good majority of its players from last season, as majority of their players were sophomores with a year of varsity experience under their belt. Don't take this Panthers team lightly despite their record. They play scrappy and will go down swinging as expectations are higher than usual, including competing for a regional championship, something that has not been done for a while at Round Lake. The next team we'll look at is the Lakes Eagles. Lakes will start their season against Lake Zurich, a former conference rival when the two teams were in opposite divisions in the North Suburban. Lakes is coached by Chris Snyder, entering his 10th season as head coach. Lakes lost to Warren in the 4A quarterfinals. Lakes is coming off an 8-20 season, but they were also part of the mix last year in conference. Similar to Round Lake, Lakes returns a lot of talent who are now seniors to help lead the Eagles and to help build some confidence and bring some momentum into the season. Lakes returns senior guard Tyler Gunther and senior guard Chris Selig. Lakes will play with a chip on their shoulder, trying to earn respectability back within all of Lake County as it starts tonight versus Lake Zurich. The last team we'll look at is the Vernon Hills Cougars, who will start their 2019-2020 campaign against Holy Trinity at Northwood. Vernon Hills is entering its 17th season under head coach McCarthy, who has coached all but 3 seasons since Vernon Hills opened its doors as a high school back in 2000. Vernon Hills is coming off a 9-22 season as they look to compete in the Central Suburban League North. Since joining the Central Suburban League, the Cougars have been fighting but have not given up despite their struggles. The problems have just been the wins have not been there. However, if you're a Cougars fan, you might say 4 times a charm and might be optimistic for this team. The Cougars return senior forward Ryan Jacobson to pound the ball down low for the Cougars, as they also return Tony Brown, who averaged 8.5 points 2 years ago as he took a year break. Let's not forget that this Lake County team back in 2014 was competing with Jalen Brunson and the Stevenson Patriots for the North Suburban Championship. While the last couple years for Vernon Hills have been a struggle, returning a good amount of this team from last year, I think trends are meant to be broken. Coach McCarthy and the Cougars are looking to at least compete for a regional championship and maybe hang around in the middle of the pack in the Central Suburban League. As we will try getting Coach McCarthy on next week on Lake County Sports Scoop. For those tuning in to Lake County Sports Scoop, I thank you and enjoy your basketball season that starts today. Tune in for the 8A championship between Warren and Lincoln Way East this weekend. We thank Rusty Silber and Ronnie Riba for calling into the show. And so long from Round Lake Beach Metro Station. Enjoy your Thanksgiving week.
You're listening to 98.3 FM, WRLR LP, Round Lake, Illinois.
Hurt me now, get it over. If you got leaving on your mind, if there's a new love in your heart, tell me now, get it over. Hurt me now, get it over. If there's a new love in your heart, don't leave me here in a world filled with dreams that might have been. Hurt me now, get it over. I may learn to love again. If there's a new love in your heart, tell me now, get it over. Hurt me now, get it over. If there's a new love in your heart.